Crossroads Church, we are so honored to be here with you. This is another home to us. You know, Crossroads is actually one of our number one supporters, and a lot of what you see and what I'm going to share with you today, it is accredited to your account for the gospel's sake. And we love being here. We're so thankful to this church. We're so thankful to this body. We're just so thankful for you. When I was just sitting there and I was praying, and I didn't know it was going to be Mission Sunday, and so I love it. I'm so excited, and I love anything missions. But I was just sitting there, and what God put in my heart is recently, like, I think that you guys do a thing for Christmas. You did a thing for us where instead of buying a gift, you buy a pencil, or you buy a tie, or you buy shoes, and it's precious because kids come up and they're able to give to missions that way, and you gave to us that way. And I've just been thinking about all the ways Crossroads has helped us, and the Lord just reminded me of David in the Bible, and how David, the way in the beginning, how he got started, he was just a little shepherd boy, and he went to the front lines of war to bring his brothers bread and cheese, and to strengthen the troops, and to strengthen the army. And when he went down there, he found his cause. When he went down there, he found the fight, and he found out that Goliath was defiling the armies of the living God, and he found his purpose, and he found his cause. And from that, later, he became a great warrior and eventually a king. And I just think, you guys have been giving us bread, and you've been giving us cheese, and you've been sending the supplies, and you've been sending the fortification and the strengthening by teams, by resource, just by encouragement, by prayer. And I'm telling you, I just feel like God's just saying, you're going to find your cause. From that, God's going to use that seed that you've been sowing into the nations, into missions, and you're going to reap it in your own personal life. So I just want to thank you for sending us bread and cheese, and sending us the resources, and just sending us the reinforcement in the army. So thank you so very much. There's so much to share with you. There's so much going on. For those of you who don't know much, we've been there on the Thai Burma border for over 15 years, working in that area. And actually, we have 145 rescued children now. And we have 5 different works: 3 on the Thai side of the 2 on the Thai side of the border, and 3 on the Burmese side of the border. We have 25 acres of land. It's called the Promised Land. We just built our 15th family-style safe home on that land. We're in the process of building a worship center, and what the Lord has said about that Promised Land is it's going to be a lighthouse in the darkest nations of the earth, that the light is going to shine bright, and that our children are going to be the ones that are going to be sent out up all along the new Silk Road of Asia, on the ASEAN highway, on the Southeast Asian highway. And so that's what we're in the middle of doing, and right now we're in the middle of building this worship center. And the Lord said that even Queen Sheba herself, like the queens and kings, will come to your land, and they'll see the great work in a land of pagan gods and idols, in an area, in a 95% Buddhist country area in the 1040, the darkest area of the world, that queens and kings and noble leaders will come and see what you guys are doing, and they'll believe in the living God from that. And so that's part of my update. I have some incredible things to share with you. When you saw that video, actually, that was when the Thai government had come to us. We were back in Brazil, and I'd shared this before, but just to give you a context of what's going on now, I was in Brazil doing a conference, and the pastors got around us, and they started praying for us, and they just said, Lana, government, no plural, governments are going to come to you and ask you what to do with the children of their nation, and God's going to put the answer on the inside of you. God's going to give you the answer, and you're going to set up social welfare systems for these countries, for these closed countries. And in the last days, when missionaries can't get in, and when they're so dangerous and they're closed that missionaries cannot go, He is going to use you to get in through the back door, through the children. And you're going to raise up a generation that knows Him in midst of generations that don't know Him. And when they said this, I automatically knew what they were talking about. The Lord had given us Psalm 127, 3 and 4, as arrows in the hand of a mighty man. So our children of the youth, they will not be ashamed, but they will subdue and conquer the enemy at the gate. And and he showed me, and I remember during that time I said, but Lord, I'm an evangelist. I want to win as many to you as possible. I want to win thousands. I want to win millions to you. I'm not a babysitter. I don't want to babysit 20 children, and when Jesus comes, me and my 20 children just go to heaven all happy. And the Lord spoke to me and said, you will reach more through these children than you could ever reach alone. In the dark nations of the earth, in the Buddhist, Muslim, Hindu nations, you'll raise up a generation that knows me in the midst of generations that don't know me, and those kids will go back into the slums that they came from, in the areas that you've rescued them from, and they'll bring the gospel to the areas when nobody else can get in there. And that's so when the Lord had showed me that, and I'd known that, and then there was a time I was back up, I was in a hospital in Bangkok, and the Minister of Foreign Affairs walked in of Bhutan. Bhutan is a closed nation next to Nepal, and he walks in, and I could tell he's a man of just authority and status, because another guy with bulletproof vest walks in before him, and another guy walks in after him, another prestigious man walks in behind him, and then another bulletproof vest guy walks in after him. So I think, oh, you think they're important, you know? And so I'm sitting there, and actually the funny part is right before I got ready to leave, I thought I'm going to be in this hospital for a while, and so I might as well bring some books. And the Lord told me, bring John Maxwell Leadership Gold Book. And so I grabbed it, and I had a stack of books. So I'm sitting there, and I'm literally, if you know me, I hate hospitals. I hate dentists. I don't hate them personally. I just hate going to the dentistry or to the hospital. I hate that whole process, and I talk myself out of it, and I usually just don't go or I walk out. And so I was there, I was getting a checkup, and I'm sitting there, and I'm arguing with the Lord, and I'm like, I'm leaving now. They put the wristband on me. I said, I'm leaving now. I don't know why I'm here. I'm leaving. And I feel like the Lord saying, no, stay. And I'm like, no, I'm leaving now. I don't want to be here. I'm in this hospital in Bangkok alone. No, I'm leaving, you know. So I'm having this discussion with the Lord, and then all of a sudden they walk in, right? And so I see him, and I'm sitting there, and I'm like, oh, you know, and he's up to something, but I want to leave. I don't want to be here. And then they come, and they sit directly behind me. They walk and just literally sit down in the road directly behind me. And I know Asian culture now. I know Asian authority. I've been around it long enough. So I gently scoot over, you know, so I'm not sitting in front of them. I scoot to the side, so I'm sitting on the side of them. And so I'm sitting there, and I'm still talking to the Lord, and he's like, turn around and talk to them. And I was like, no, I'm leaving. I'm not staying here. I don't need to be talking to them. And he said, turn around and talk to them. And I said, but I'm leaving. I'm leaving. You're tricking me right now. I don't want to stay here, you know. And so anyways, finally, of course, I obeyed, and I turned around, and I just said, I can tell you're a man of authority. And I said, can you tell me, may I ask, who are you and what do you do? And all of a sudden he pulls out a commemorative coin, and he said, I'm the Minister of Foreign Affairs for Bhutan, and Bhutan. And so he said, for Bhutan. And I looked, and he goes, here's a coin for my country. It's a special commemorative coin. And then later I looked up, the king is like my age. They have no Western influence. It's closed. It's purely Buddhist. And they have not let, at that point, they don't even let TV in. Like, they want no Western influence in their country, so they don't even let their people watch TV. Everything's underground. Everything's closed. And so I didn't know this at the time. So he hands me this commemorative coin. He hands me his personal cell phone number, and the Lord said, give him his book. Give him your book. And so give him the John Maxwell Leadership Gold Book. Well, it's a Christian book on leadership principles. And I said, sir, I perceive that you're a man of great authority, and this is a leadership book of another man of authority. And so I just want to give this to you. And he took this book, and he just looked at it, and you know, it has Christian principles. This is a closed nation. We began talking, and he says, you could come to my country anytime you want. And so anyways, I start to walk out. They call my number. I start to walk out, and the Lord spoke to me, and he said, you want to know how to reach closed countries like that? And I said, yes, sir. And he said, you start social welfare systems for children in those countries, and that's how you're going to reach the closed countries of the world in the last days. You're going to help them with their children. Okay, this is like years before this happened. And so I start telling a couple people, and they just look at me like I'm crazy. Like, you're going to start a social welfare system for children, and it's going to help in the evangelism in the last days. And so I stopped saying it, and I forgot about it. And honestly, I just kind of put it on the back burner. So when those pastors came up and said, governments are going to come to you and ask you what to do with the children of their nation, and God's going to put the answer on the inside of you, and from that's going to open open a door into the closed nations of the world. Everything that God had told me came up on the inside again, and I knew it was true. I had just forgotten about it. I just put it aside, and I just thought it's impossible. How can it happen? How can I do something like that? And so anyway, so that was going on. Well, during the time of this video, the Thai government set up a secret meeting. That happened in October with Brazil. In February, the Thai government set up a secret meeting with me and said, 60 children are trafficked daily. Will you help us? Will you become the first government-recognized safe home on this border, on the Thai border? And so when they did that, and they said, what do you need from us? And the Lord spoke to me and said, don't ask for money, ask for two things. He said, don't ask for money. He said, ask for authority, the same as police, so that you can rescue and you can be protected. And he said, and then ask for citizenship for all of your children so they can have an opportunity to get to the highest levels of society and reach into the deepest and highest levels of society, and they could be recognized in the city gates again. And so I said, sir, we don't want money. We want authority, the same as police, to do our own rescues, and I want citizenship for all of my children. And so so right now I tell you, all of my kids have ID cards. They all have citizenship. From it, 2 of the girls got scholarships and sponsorships to come to the U.S. to go to school here, and they're going to learn English to a degree that they can go back and be sent out from our border right there. And right now we're in the process of getting this special yellow card that we're recognized only when they do a rescue on our border. We have to be present. We are by law and decree, the government recognized safe home. All children have to come through life impact doors. So that means, and they know we're Christian. So that means that all children will hear the name of Jesus Christ and hear about their rescuer, Jesus, that are rescued on the Thai-Burma border. It means that we get to advocate for them and protect them and place them where they need to be placed. And then it also means with all of that, there's a team of rescuers. So we're, as an aftercare facility, have to go. We have a social worker, we have the governor, and then we have a police. And so there's just a team of us. Well, once we get this yellow card, it's finalized in the coming months. As soon as we get this yellow card, we have our own rescue. Like, we don't need anybody else. We don't need police or governor. We have the authority, the same as police, to conduct all rescues on our border, which is phenomenal, okay? And so we're in the process right now. There's a road that runs right in front of our promised land, right in front of there, and it goes all the way up to China and all the way down to Singapore, and it's going to be the new trade route, or the new Silk Road of Asia, the Indo-China trade route. So basically children from Bangladesh, children from Burma, you have all the different countries going, Malaysia, they will have to pass right in front of our promised land on this road. We're going to train our own rescue task force to basically be looking in, and it's going to be checkpoints of seeing if any of these children are from China, from Burma, from Bangladesh, and we'll be able to have the authority to rescue right there. So it is crazy what's going on. So then if that wasn't enough, okay, to even keep up with or to even see, and you have to understand, like, our vision is not just children. Our vision are two things: exploited children and evangelism. So all of this favor, all of this authority, everything that we're getting, it's also going to bring in the gospel in the darkest region of the world, you know? And so in these closed areas that we're going to, and in these areas we get to rescue, we also get to preach Jesus and turn the hearts and bring light into darkness in the darkest places. And so if Thailand wasn't enough, when I went back this last time, basically Thailand, the governor, started talking to the Burmese governor and in Burma, and he said, these are your children that are being trafficked over our border. This is your problem. You know, what are you going to do? And the Burmese governor said, well, what are you doing? And he said, well, we have this organization named Life Impact, and they're helping us with our children, and they're helping us with our problem. And he said, he goes, and you should ask them to help you too. And so the Burmese governor, okay, you have to understand, the nation of Myanmar has been in civil war for over 60 years. If you saw the last Rocky, it's very violent. I don't recommend it, but if you saw the last Rocky, it's very true, where he goes into the war zone, where they take their children to be like soldiers, child soldiers. They use them as weapon porters. They use them as minesweepers to walk in front of them and set off the landmines. Like, it's very real. They use their women, and I mean, all of it is very, very real. It's been going on for over 60 years. These are some of the worst, like, military junta that has ruled and just oppressed their people for so many years. And I mean, they're just really, really bad and really don't care. And so with all of that, but when they're talking to him, they said, well, can you tell this organization, Life Impact, would they be able to help us? And can they write a proposal, and can you put it on my coffee table, basically? And so the Thai governor talked to the Burmese governor. They start talking, and he talks them into letting him help us. Well, they brought him to our land. They brought him to the promised land. And I have some pictures right here. It's crazy. If you can go where I'm, just go scroll through a little bit, some of those pictures. Keep going, I'll show you. Okay, go another one. Okay, there you go. So these are like one of the most oppressive military juntas in the world. The Thai governor talked to the Burmese government, talked him into coming touring our promised land. The Queen of Sheba came. Okay, I got to present and basically be the voice. This has never happened before. This is like Bible history stuff. Like you're reading it and you're like, okay, I don't even know how this is happening right now. So basically they brought them to see what we do, to see how we do it, and to see how we can do it in their country. Okay, they have nothing. There is no government social welfare system for these children. There is nothing. They've oppressed their children for so very long. They have nothing. And so basically we got to plead the case and be the voice for these children. They toured about, there were 6 vehicles, 30 government officials, the head of human trafficking, the head of the military, every single head. They were there at our land. And basically we got to present why we do what we do and how we do it and different things. You could go to the next slide. This guy, they called me Shakira. They like totally loved us. Like they just loved us. We had so much favor with them. Keep going, if you could keep going. And keep going again. Okay, so in the end, so we did our presentation and everything, and I said, do you have any questions? They asked me their questions, and then I just felt like the Lord said, go for it. So I said, I have 2 questions for you. One, will you let me help you with your children? Will you let me help the nation of Myanmar with your children? And 2, will you give me unrestricted access to No Man's Land, which is an area where we've rescued 8 children already. It's where they house all of the drugs, all of the children, every single illegal activity is combined there. Nobody wants to go down in there. They say you cannot be down there longer than 5 minutes. We cannot protect you. We cannot, you cannot go down there. We've been praying for this place. Crossroads team, they came, they prayer walked over it. We've been believing God for this area. And this guy is the head of that area. And he said, I will personally myself escort you into No Man's Land, and I will protect you. And basically they'll let us start community work in that area. So it is crazy. Keep going, if you could keep going again, and keep going again. And so, thank you. And so in all of this, what's going on? So it's not just Thailand, it's not just Burma, but in Southeast Asia, out of 700 organizations, they have chosen us to be one right there of actually 6. The middle one is a producer, like a TV. He was like the TV MC, but they have asked us to be the voice for at-risk children in Southeast Asia. They've written books about us. They know that we are Christian, and they said, this is the model organization, and if you want to help children in Southeast Asia, this is what you're supposed to do. So right now, we are the voice for the voiceless in Southeast Asia, and I get to do this all undercover as an evangelist with the gospel, going into these areas with my whole motive of raising up a generation that knows him, to send them out as arrows and God's secret weapons in his hands to change nations that don't know him. So is this not crazy? This is pretty, it is. I'm telling you, I woke up that morning and I was just like, this is not real. Like, it's real, but it just felt so surreal where governments and nations are coming to you and God's putting the answer on the inside of you and he's giving you answers for these people, and it's opening a door of favor and just a door of authority and a door to bring him in those nations. And so when all of that was happening, I woke up in the morning and I was just praying and I was just sitting in awe of him, and the Lord just spoke to me and he said, didn't I tell you if you believe, you would see the glory of God if you believed? He said, didn't I tell you this was going to happen? I was like, yeah, but I didn't think it was going to be like this, And it was like, didn't I tell you if you believed you'd see the glory of God? And I just feel, all of this has been going on. Our children, in the midst of all of this, there's one area that we targeted, and our children that we've raised up in this area, they've been with us for 8 and 9 years. Right now, they're doing a lot of the evangelism on Saturdays, and they've reached this area. It's the next trafficking point. It's called Gate 2, and they've been going there every Saturday, and they started with 70 kids, and this is like for the children, by the children. So the kids are rescued kids. They put on the dramas. They put on the skits. They put on the songs. They they prepare everything. They do their lessons. They draw their own cue cards. They do everything the night before. On Friday night, they pray. They get everything ready. Well, they've been going there and ministering to these kids. At first, it was 70 kids. Then it's 100 kids. Well, all these kids start getting saved, right? And they're like, we don't want to be Buddhists anymore because Christians have more fun. So we want to be Christians. Like we don't want to do this. We want to have fun, Mom. And so anyway, so these kids start getting saved. Their moms start coming and getting saved. So the kids come to us and they're like, we're not adults. You need to do a Bible study for them because we don't know how to do it, And so our staff start having to do a Bible study for the moms. Well, the moms start getting the favor of God and their lives start changing. So they start getting jobs and they start getting work. And so the husbands and the fathers are like, okay, my wife's got a job. My child's happy. What in the world is going on with my family? So then they start coming. So we start showing the Jesus film at night. We have a Burmese pastor go over and minister to the men and show the Burmese film at night. So this whole community that was one of the main trafficking points on our border is now completely reached. We put a pastor there. We pay his salary. We rent a building for the church. And actually, it was planted by our children. Like, it's just what's going on. It just blows me away. And it's just, like, phenomenal what God's doing on our border. But, the one thing that I really wanted to share with you, and I feel like God just really gave me a message. All these things are literally, like, history-making, groundbreaking. Like, I've never seen stuff like this before. And I tell you, it all happened in the midst of one of the hardest times of my life. And I tell you, like, I could tell you the day, January 3rd, I literally told the Lord, like, I can't do this anymore. It's too big for me. I'm not doing a good job. Who do you want me to hand this over to? And I was about to give up right before the Burmese government came to our land, right before all of this breakthrough happened. I literally told the Lord, like, I'm done, like I give up, like I'm quitting. Who do you want me to hand all of this over to? Who do you want to trust with this? And the Lord spoke to me. And he said, you think you're smarter than me, don't you? And I said, no, sir, I don't. He goes, yes, you do. You think you're smarter than me. You think you know who's better to reach my children, to reach my world, to reach my people. You think you know who's better than you. You think that I didn't know what I was doing when I chose you. You think that I didn't know what I was getting into when I told you. And when I told you, so you think you know that you think that you know somebody that can do a better job than you to raise my children, to get my work done on the earth, to build my kingdom on the earth. And I said, no. And he said, yes, you do. And he basically told me, he's like, you are not perfect. And you are not, you're not perfect. No, shocker. Spoiler alert, you're not perfect. But you're perfect for these children that I've called you to. You're perfect for the staff I've called you to. You're perfect for this border. You're perfect for what I've called you to do. And I knew what I was doing when I chose you. And he said, there's nothing that you can do to make me unchoose you. There's nothing you could do to make me change my mind about you. There's nothing. I knew what I was getting into, and I knew what I was doing when I chose you. And you're not perfect, but you're perfect for what I've called you to do and what I've asked you to do on the earth. And when he told me that, I said, but I'm not doing a good job. I said, but don't you see, I'm not doing, you just keep giving me more and more and more, and I don't understand why, because I'm not doing good with what you gave me before, and then you give me more. Like, I don't get it. We're at 57 national staff, we're 145 kids, 2 countries, and I'm only 39 years old, and so I was like, don't you see I'm not doing a good job? And you know what he said to me? He said, who told you that? He said, who told you that? Who told you weren't doing a good job? Who told you that? And I started thinking, he's like, did I ever say that? I said, no, sir, you didn't. He said, what was the last thing I said to you? I said, the last thing you said was, well done, good and faithful servant. The last thing you said is, daughter, I'm proud of you. These are the last things that you've said to me. And he said, all right. And he said, then nobody else's vote counts but mine. You rise and fall to me, and you don't stop until I say to stop. And I'm not saying stop. I'm saying you just begun, and you've just got started. And so I'm here just to tell you, if you don't stop, you'll win. If you don't stop, you'll win. And if you remember your why, there's so many times now, and I got the closest I got to quitting in my life, but I see why the enemy threw everything he could against me, because he knew literally nations are being changed in Southeast Asia. We are recognized not just in Thailand and Burma, but in Southeast Asia, and we have a voice now for these children. Generations are going to be saved, like nations are going to be changed. It is crazy the lives that are at stake, and so the devil threw everything he could could at me to get me to quit. And do you know, if the devil can't get you to sin, if he can't get you to sin, he'll try to get you to quit. If he can't get you to sin, then he'll try to discourage you and he'll try to distract you because he knows he can't get you to sin. He can't get you to do anything stupid like that. And so I'm telling you, that's one of his number one tools. And today, I just want to say you need to remember your why. I want to show you. Turn over to Psalm 126. And right when I was going to, around the time I was going to quit, this is what the Lord gave to me in Psalm 126. And it says, when the Lord brought back the captivity of Zion, we were like those who dream. Then our mouth was filled with laughter and our tongue with singing. Look at this. And then they said among the nations, the Lord has done great things for them. The Lord has done great things for us, and we are glad. You know, do you remember that time when you first got saved and it was like a dream, or that first calling, or that first, outreach, or that first missions trip, and it was like a dream, or that first taste of ministry, and you're just like, I love this. This is like a dream. This is what you've done for me. My life is like a dream. You saved me out of darkness. You saved me out of this junk, and now look at my life. And I just, I've always had that since the day I got saved when I was 19 years old, and where it was like I could see in color again. The sky was blue and the grass was green, and singing and praise was on our lips. And sometimes when distraction and discouragement and disappointment is thrown at us, it tries to steal that, and it tries to take that again to where it was like a dream. But the Lord wants to turn that around again in this new day, in this new year, in 2016. He wants to turn that around again, and he wants to make our life like a dream again. He wants to make our Christian walk, our Christian life like a dream, and our service to him like a dream. He wants to put songs of praise on our lips again, and he wants to turn that whole situation around again to this point where nations see and say, the Lord has done great things for them, which we are glad, which I am glad. And then I say, the Lord has done incredible, amazingly great, insane things for which I am glad. It's a good day when governments recognize you and say, the Lord has done great things for him. It's a really good day. And that's the days that we're supposed to be living in. And so if you keep going, it says, bring back our captivity, O Lord, as the streams in the south. Those who sow in tears shall reap in joy. He who continually goes forth weeping, bearing seed for sowing, shall doubtless come again with rejoicing, bringing his sheaves with them. And I just tell you, I feel like it was just like, I talked to so many people, and I feel like 2015 was just a hard year, and there were a lot of tears shed, and I feel like the enemy tried to work overtime to get his people to quit and to give up and to think it's too hard. The Christian life's too hard. Ministry's too hard. To do incredible things and step out for God is too hard. And so he threw everything he could at us, because 2016 was going to be a Psalm 126 year where the Lord turned it all around, where we're rejoicing, where we're carrying our harvest. Well, when before we sowed seeds of tears and just weeping, and then now it's all turned around, and we're just like looking at the harvest of what God's done in our life, and we're laughing, and we have laughter on our lips again, and it's like we just got saved. It's like we just knew him. It's like everything is just restored back into us. And that's where I'm at right now, and that's what I'm seeing, and this is what I want for all of you. I want your dreams to be restored. I want the promises of God. I want the joy of your salvation. I want the reminders of, oh my gosh, didn't I tell you if you believed you'd see the glory of God in this situation? Didn't I tell you if you believed you'd see the glory of God and him work it all out, work that job out, work that situation out? That is the year that we're living in. Turn over to Nehemiah. I don't got much time. I'm going to have to go fast through this, okay? And Nehemiah 1, what's new? Nehemiah 1, chapter 1, verse 3, and I'm going to just jump through this. And it says, and they said to me, and this is where, okay, but in this situation with Nehemiah, you're going to see these two parts right here. Nehemiah gets his what, and Nehemiah remembers his why. And it says, and they said to me, the survivors who are left from captivity in the province are there in great distress and reproach. The wall of Jerusalem is also broken down, and its gates are burned with fire. So it was when I heard these words that I sat down and wept and mourned for many days. I was fasting and praying before the God of heaven. At that time, the walls of Jerusalem were burnt down. They were destroyed. The people have lost hope. It would be like somebody coming to your church and just plundering your church. And it's like, what? Are you kidding? Like, that was the life lighthouse. That was, I've learned such great things there. That represents salvation for my family. And it would be just a time of that. And when Nehemiah heard this and heard what had happened to God's stuff and God's people, it says he sat down and he wept. At that moment, he realized his what. That's what he was passionate about. That's what burned on the inside of him. And he got his what at that moment. Let's look at when he gets his why. And if you jump down to 10, it says, now these are your servants. He's talking to God. He said, now these are your servants and your people, whom you have redeemed by your great power and your strong hand. At that moment, he got his why. Like, why even do it? Why is it worth it? Why, at that point, Nehemiah was a cupbearer in the palace. He had a comfortable life. It was good. He was safe. He had the finest food. He tasted the finest drinks before the king did, so that he didn't die, and so that he checked it for poison. And so he had a good life. And at that moment, though, the cause of God and his what just so overrid his comfortability, just so overrid everything. It's like, why go into ministry? Why go into missions? Why start doing this? Why rock the boat? It's good. Life is good. But at that moment, the cause just overrid everything he knew. And the what, he got his what, and he got his why. And I'm telling you, so if you look, he goes about to rebuild the wall, and he's one of the greatest leaders that we've ever seen. And I want, let's jump to 17, and I'm going to have to jump because we got to do it. Okay, so in 2:17, it says he starts gathering a team. He starts getting a plan. He starts getting the people, and he says, then I said to them, you see the distress that we are in, how Jerusalem lies in waste, and its gates are burned with fire. Now come and let us build the wall of Jerusalem, that we may no longer be a reproach. And I told them of the hand of my God, which had been good upon me, and also of the king's words that he had spoken to me. So they said, let us rise up and build. And they set their hands to this good work. Okay, so you see what happened. He told the vision to the people. He rallied the people. He challenged the people. The people got the vision. He said, now let's do it. All right, let's get up. Let's do it. And look what happens automatically. But when Sanballat the Horonite, Tobiah an Ammonite official, and Geshem the Arab heard of it, they laughed at us and despised us and said, what is this thing that you are doing? Will you rebel against the king? So I answered them and said to them, see, you have to pause right there. As soon as you step out to do something great for God, as soon as you do that, the enemy always tries to throw a discouragement, tries to throw you a curveball, tries to throw something. This is one of his tactics. But if you recognize it, you'll know it, and you'll see it, and you'll know. And so right there, I have on top of it, I have discouragement, because that's one of the tricks of the enemy. And it says, so at that moment, look at how he answered them. He said, I answered them and said to them, the God of heaven himself will prosper us. Therefore, we, his servants, will arise and build, but you have no heritage or right or memorial in Jerusalem. So that was his first response. So the first thing that the devil threw at him was discouragement. You know what discouragement does? It comes and tries to take our courage to do what God has asked us to do and to do what he's called us to do. But did you see his response? No, God's with us. God's going to bless us. His hand's upon us. He's going to prosper us. Are you kidding? The Almighty God is for us, and he's with us, and who can be against us? So number one, remember, discouragement is the thing that tries to come and take the very courage to do what God's called you to do. Number two, let's look in verse, and we'll jump over to 5, and 4, 6, and we'll go through 9. And it says, we built the wall, the entire wall. It was joined up to half its height, for the people had a mind to work. And then when he heard about it again, all right, they became very angry this time. And they conspired together to attack and to confuse. So the next thing he did was they planned to physically threat them. And I love what he says right here in 9. Nevertheless, we made our prayer to our God, and because of them we sent a watch against them day and night. And jump down to 14, and it says, and I looked and arose and said to the nobles, to the leaders, and to the rest of the people, do not be afraid of them. Remember the Lord, great and awesome. And fight for your brethren, your sons, your daughters, your wives, and your houses. And it happened, when our enemies heard that, it was known to us, and that God had brought their plot to nothing, that all of us returned to the wall, everyone to his work. So from that time on, that half of my servants worked at construction while the other half held the spears, the shield, the bows, wore armor, and the leaders were all behind and supported the house of Judah. And it keeps going over and over. And this is the last part. And it says, if you jump into 6:15, in all of it, if we kept going, you'd see over and over when the enemy came at him again. And in 6:1, he brings distraction. And he says, get off your wall and come and talk to me. Get off your wall and come and explain to me why you're doing what you're doing or how you're doing it, or get off your wall. So if the enemy can't discourage you, he'll try to distract you from your wall and what you're building and what you're doing unto your God. But on this last part in 6:15, I tell you, through it all, through the discouragement, through the physical threat, and through the distraction, let's look what happened. So the wall was finished on the 25th day of Elul in 52 days. And it happened when all of our enemies heard of it and all the nations around us saw these things, that they were very disheartened in their own eyes, for they perceived that this work was done by God.